me? Now you can hear me. If there's anybody in back that has not had a seat, it's time to be seated. We are going to start the program. All right. Very good. I'm going to turn it over to this gentleman, and I will be back with you shortly.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome each one of you here. This is a special occasion for us, and we hope you enjoy yourself. I'd like to recognize a few people as we get started. One, the center is operated by volunteers. So if any of you here are a volunteer at the center, if you'd wave at the crowd, some are out front. If you notice, some of the board members raised their hands, so the board members are here. Looks like we got a quorum, so we can do business. The Fireside Chat was started some time ago, and we hope it continues to grow, and we hope eventually we'll have to find a larger auditorium in the city somewhere, maybe Toyota Center. Tonight we're going to be treated to some very capable people to tell us about fires and all the things that we can do to protect ourselves and all the information that we might like to find. Prescott Fire Chief Holger Durre is here. Met him some years ago, and the first time I met him, come to find out, when he was probably about knee high, I went to Colorado State, and he graduated from Colorado State. CAFMA Fire Chief John Feddema's here, and I think he represents the part of the county I live in. So we're pleased to have you here, and at this time I'll introduce John Heine, who is economic developer and tourism guy with the city of Prescott, and he will be your MC tonight.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. I'm going to clear a seat off here, and I'm going to invite the two chiefs to come and have a seat right up here. And as John Marsh said, I am John Heine. I'm with the city of Prescott, and I will be your moderator, which means I get to read this page full of questions off to these two gentlemen and get their responses. So before we get started, a little bit of housekeeping. You may notice behind you there's a few cameras set up. So if either of the chiefs say something that's rousing and makes you want to stand up and cheer, that's great. Just make sure you don't block the camera, okay? So we appreciate that. And then also wanted to let you know that there's actually a fundraiser going on starting at 4 o'clock at Augie's. And this is a donation of 10% of the proceeds. As long as you mention the Granite Mountain Interagency Hotshot Crew Learning and Tribute Center, they will get 10% back to us from your meal. I know I'm going to be ordering out from Augie's later, so I hope you can join us there. I think they're open until 8 o'clock tonight, so we're looking forward to that. So without further ado, I will get started with some questions, gentlemen. First, I think it's appropriate for you each to tell us a little bit about yourself. We'll start with Chief Feddema.
I do want to address one.
I'm going to hand that to you. There you go.
All right, I think we should address one thing that was mentioned by John. If you're going to be looking for a bigger audience, bigger, event center, you might want to look at the speakers and look at maybe getting somebody that might attract an audience. We appreciate everybody being here and obviously the opportunity to share this online. I'll give just a brief overview of my history, mainly in the fire service. I grew up in California and moved into Prescott Valley, Arizona when I was 15 and graduated from Bradshaw. And I didn't realize I wanted to get into fire service, but I went to Yavapai College and looked through their little menu of classes, and that was the only one that sounded good to me. So I started taking that and got hired by the Central Yavapai Fire District in 2000. And got hired full-time in 2002 and been with them ever since, and certainly enjoyed my time, and I love the fire service, and I'm blessed to have gotten involved, but I kind of would say fell into it. Wasn't something that I was exposed to or anything else, but it, again, grateful and blessed to be a part of it and blessed to be part of this community. So that is a little bit about me.
Yes, my name is Holger. I'm the City of Prescott Fire Chief. I've been here about 4 years. A little bit about me is I came from Colorado. As John mentioned, we are from the same university alma mater. And the way that I got into this was I had this pipe dream of going to medical school, and so I became a firefighter. The way that happened was that as I was working my way through undergrad at CSU, I started a part-time job on the ambulance service, and that led to a full-time job, and then that led to applying for the fire department. And similar to you, that was not in the plan initially, and it was the only thing that made sense once I ended up there, which is a great lead-in because the only place that makes sense for me to be a fire chief is right here. I love this place, I love the community, I love my department, and it is all the things that initially attracted me to being a firefighter and being in the fire service. It's not just service, it's how we connect with the community, it's the purpose of the work that we get to do. So in 2000, I was hired by the fire department in Fort Collins, Colorado, and then spent 17 years there, left as a battalion chief, went to Boulder for 5 years as the deputy chief, and then an opportunity that I never thought that I was looking for here in Prescott came up, and next thing I know, doors kept opening, and here I am, and I've loved every minute since. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. So I'll start out with a question that was first on the list. This is for Chief Durre primarily. So a connection to the Granite Mountain Hotshots. How many former Granite Mountain Hotshots are a member of your crew at this time?
So I don't have the exact count, but I would say it's somewhere between 10 and 12 that have had some exposure or experience that are still currently on the job. And when I say Granite Mountain Hotshots, keep in mind that that also includes folks like our operations chief, Bill Hickey, who technically was on the fuels crew, and before it became the Granite Mountain Hotshots, he had already transitioned to the structure side. So, but you can tell the thread is definitely there. And if you're ever around our personnel and you see them in their Class B uniform, if you see the Granite Mountain Interagency Hotshot uniform bar, you know that's a prior Granite Mountain member. I don't know, how about you?
So I was looking at, again, for our organization, and we do have one individual that was on the Granite Mountain Hotshots, and obviously very, close to the incident when it did happen, but we do have one.
So that connection is still there, so thank you for sharing that information. So I've got a really easy question next for you guys. Thought I'd throw you a softball. What is your prediction for the upcoming fire season, Chiefs? Will it be an active fire season in our area based on NWS and your view? So we'll start over here.
If we ask our wildland crews, it's going to be the worst season ever. So just keep that in mind. If Jason's back there and nodding. It's always our area. You never know. And I've been here for a while now, and I've seen some years where there wasn't an expectation for much to happen, but you look at some of the springtime winds that come in. We've had, a very dry winter, which is tough, but we've had some spring rain, so you see spring green up. That shouldn't be there yet. Unfortunately, that all dries up, and it takes start. So what I think you'll see from our organization, and I know we partner with the city of Prescott, but trying to get the information out there early to help prevent, because if we can get just from chains dragging, we see a lot of fires from chains dragging down the road. People don't think about it, but it doesn't take much once all the fuels dry up. So if that gives you an idea that I should have started this and said, I don't know, because you never know. And that's what we've seen throughout the years is I don't feel like there's no rhyme or reason. Sometimes we feel like it's going to be the worst season, driest season ever, and there are no starts, and we get through the season well, we get into monsoons, and we move on. Other times, it just takes a bad start in a bad location, and obviously it can be devastating to the community as well. So, Holger might have a better prediction than that. We'll turn it over to him.
Well, actually, so both of us are here because we had an embarrassment of mentors, and one of my mentors told me the two things you never predict: baseball seasons and fire seasons. And it's true. We can't predict with fair certainty. Now, can we model? Absolutely. And I think that the more important term there is, we're really trying to push this idea of fire adaptive communities. And the idea is that wildfire is a component of the place that we live. And the idea that we need to shift into is not so much just thinking about prevention or even suppression. It's how do we live with that reality? Because it's not even, what about this fire season? Well, what about next fire season? What about the next 10 years? And really, when we take that more long-term outlook and we think about what are we doing strategically to plan for that, the impact of those fire seasons and their variability are better manageable for us, both as residents, fire department, community. But it's really, I think, very important to understand that sometimes when you think there's going to be a weather pattern that does a certain thing, it turns out completely differently. But the long-range view, right, is that no matter what the weather is, we'll always be living in a community that is central to wildfire impacts. And that is a natural part of our environment. To some extent, we're the intruders, right? I mean, we built the houses on the hillsides with the trees. And so now we've got to figure out a way, how do we adapt to living with that reality?
I'll add to that before we turn it back over. One of the things that we have had to adjust over the last, I would say, 10 to 15 years is it's no longer a season. We are in fire season 365 days in the year. And we have changed some of our operations over the last, I would say, 5 to 10 years that reflect that. We used to have certain periods of time when we would upstaff or, look at high winds. Now that can come at any point during the year. And again, the devastation can happen at any time during the year. Some of our more impactful fires happen in the spring with the winds that, have a big gap between the monsoon season. So sometimes April and May, when you don't think of typical fire season, we've had some of our worst fires. So not that that's an encouragement, but unfortunately, go back to Chief Durre's point, we live in that environment.
So it sounds like our fire departments and of course our partner Prescott National Forest are preparing differently, lengthening the fire season preparedness more around. So the next question is, what can citizens do? You talked a little bit about fire adaptive communities. What are some things that citizens can do to prepare and be prepared year-round for fire season?
Oh. Okay. I didn't expect that. I thought you were going to, Okay, excellent. Okay. So first of all, again, mindset, right? When I mentioned fire adaptive communities, it's how do we think about living in a community impacted by wildfire? And really, it's not just wildfire, it's really all natural disasters or other major impacts that could happen to a community and being prepared. So for instance, being signed up for emergency alerts, knowing what that really entails, go kits, the things that the Yavapai County Office of Emergency Management as well as the sheriff will definitely do a great job. If you need resources, that's two great places to look. Our website for the Prescott Regional Communications Center, they also have good emergency alert resources to check into. But more than anything is, first of all, educate. Educate yourself. You're here, right? So I'm not talking to all of you. I'm talking to the folks that aren't here. I think if you're living in Prescott and you are not aware and alive to the fact that you're living in a community that has wildfire impacts and what that really means, that's probably the first challenge that we have to have. It's that public awareness. And it's not just awareness for awareness sakes, it's awareness for action. Because everybody in this, really the term fire adaptive community that I keep mentioning, is not Firewise. Firewise is just one component of being fire adaptive. And really, as a matter of fact, I'll kind of illustrate a point here. If we had the largest fire department that we could ever build for Prescott, within reason, and we had the largest mitigation force that we could ever build for the city of Prescott, there would actually be a weakness to that. And the weakness is that it would lull others into a false sense of security that they don't have a role to play. What you do on your home parcel, how you look at your vegetation management, you being prepared and aware of where emergency alerting information can be found, where you can go for reliable information when a wildfire starts, and even the conversations you have with your insurance agent about what happens when my home burns down and I have to rebuild. What does that look like? Those are the things that we need our residents to start thinking about. It sounds scary, but the reality is that's the community that we live in. And if we start with awareness that leads to action, we're all going to be better prepared, because we are never going to be able to build you a fire department that can suppress those fires. We're never going to be able to build you mitigation plans without the entire community helping out. We just can't be everywhere. This is such a large problem, right, that if we don't solve it on a community-wide level, we're not going to make the progress that we need to truly get to a safer and more prepared place.
That's why I gave him the microphone first, because I can just say ditto to that. And to Chief Durre's point, trying to encourage the community, look at it from two sides. You hate when a fire does occur and you have to deal with the ramifications, but being prepared for that. So, like Chief Durre said, the evacuation notices, all the alerts that are out there, like being part of that. And so you're aware of what to do, how you're going to evacuate your community. That's an important piece. But unfortunately, that's the worst part of it. The first part of it, if we can help with some of the mitigation, you as a homeowner, looking at your own property, that's an important piece as well. Because the more we, like Chief Durre said, we're trying not just to look at the fire wise, but how do we adapt to the real issue that we are living in an area that's it's going to happen. Fires are going to happen. Throughout my time with just in this area, we've had a number of different fires in the community even that are very impactful. And so understanding how you can better prepare your own home, and then obviously be prepared to leave if you need to.
Thank you very much. We'll shift a little bit, talk about fire operations a little bit. So I think one question that people want to know is about cooperation. So one of the things I like to say after working with the city for 9 years and seeing the cooperation, the mutual aid, that one of Prescott's superpowers is cooperation, not just among our public safety, but as citizens, but it really is impressive what is done. So can we talk a little bit about mutual aid and closest resource concept with your departments and how y'all work together on that?
Yeah, and I'll start before I turn it over to Chief Durre, because I will say I am blessed to be a part of this community, but I'm also spoiled to have been a part of this community, understanding from what was beginning the interoperability that we have, the partnerships that we have in this community. You don't realize it growing up in the fire service as a firefighter, as an engineer, even as a captain. You don't realize it, but as a community, we work very well together. And it's not just the two departments, but with the Prescott National Forest, with the Department of Forestry and Fire Management, the community as a whole. We are blessed working with our police department, from Prescott Police to YCSO to Prescott Valley Police Department. We have great relationships that you don't realize doesn't occur everywhere across the country, but here it is necessary. It's necessary because of the issue we just talked about in terms of being fire adaptive, working with one another. We have limited resources, so how do we maximize those? We maximize those by working well together. And to go back to the mutual aid, and I can let Chief Durre talk more about it, but one of the things that I think is very neat to see is Chief Durre's leadership, bringing accreditation and doing the first ever joint standards of cover, where we as a community demonstrated to the accreditation process that we own each other's liabilities. I think Chief Durre said it before, and I think it's a great way to articulate it. We, as CAFMA, utilized that to the nth degree when the Legato fire happened. And to give that as a kind of an example, when the Legato in Prescott Valley is burning, I didn't ask Chief Durre how many resources can we have. We just called him, and he sent them. And then we had to look at how do we backfill the stations, how do we utilize, outside mutual aid around the state, because locally, between the two departments, it is automatic. It doesn't matter where the call is in the city of Prescott or within CAFMA's jurisdiction, an engine is going, and it's going to be the closest unit, which is a great thing to have. Beyond that, we're also part of a statewide mutual aid that we have to call upon when we need more resources. And so you use the Legato fire as an example. We gobbled up the city of Prescott's resources real quick, and so now we're calling for a statewide mutual aid. And so we had units from Cottonwood come in, from Mayor and Williamson Valley, all those resources outside to start sending help to help backfill some of the stations. And so again, locally, internally, the two departments, we have a very seamless relationship, and it's, again, I'm very blessed, but I'm also don't realize sometimes how good we have it until someone like Chief Durre comes in and helps provide it, or we go somewhere else for training and you realize what we have is unique and very good.
Yeah, it is unique, and it's unique for really good reasons. One of the things is our geographic isolation relative to the rest of the state. There's a lot of areas, like in the Phoenix area, you cannot have, for instance, a specialty team in certain areas because you can call for mutual aid and they'll be there within a reasonable amount of time. We can call for mutual aid, like Chief Feddema said, but not within the time frame of being able to solve that citizens issue. And so we have to rely on each other. The other component is, as you probably know, if you've been here for more than 5 minutes, this is a community that is interwoven with itself. And what that means is when the Prescott National Forest is burning and the fire management officer for the Prescott National Forest is in a meeting with the City of Prescott Fire Chief and the CAFMA Fire Chief, they're talking about that fire the same way we do because it's their hometown too. Whereas in some of the other areas in the country, you might see people commuting 2-3 hours away, and the connection that they have to the community that they work around at that federal and at that state level isn't the same as it is here. And so a lot of the folks that we work with on a daily basis are just as connected because they grew up in this community, and that really is something that's unique. The other component, Chief Feddema mentioned it, the joint planning document that we have, it's almost to the point where both of us will forget. We're going to get a reminder here in a couple of weeks because we have to go to Orlando because they're going to be up in front of the commission to talk about their accreditation application and get approved. We'll be right behind them, as if we were up at the commission. We were there last March, and they were sitting right behind us on this. And that's about the only time that I think we really, truly kind of reflect and go, oh, when they tell us that's the first time that's ever been done anywhere in the country, they mean it. And for us, it's like, well, yeah, of course we would. And when we went first, we really had to explain to that peer team, no, you don't understand. If we did it any other way, it would actually be not as legitimate as forwarding you the application this way because it tells the actual story of Prescott. That interoperability, another thing, here we are in the Learning Tribute Center, right? I often say this, pain is much more manageable when there's purpose to that pain. One of the things that came out of the tragedy is we figured out how we can take a Sedona battalion chief right now. We can literally do it, get in your truck, come over here, and take over the city of Prescott. We've got a plan for that now. We can have a Glendale fire engine come and have a Prescott firefighter as basically their liaison, and they can run calls in Yavapai Hills in about 2 hours. That is an outcome, a direct outcome of the Granite Mountain Hotshot tragedy. And to me, that's always something that I think we need to impress on people is that a lot of times you think, what a waste. And yes, what a loss. But we have done something with that loss to bring purpose to this community that makes this community resilient and that continues to build on that tradition, if that makes some sense.
Thank you, Chiefs. Next question, the Regional Dispatch Center. How many calls, what is your call volume there, and how many different agencies does the Dispatch Center work with? So I'll send it over to Chief Durre.
I had to do the research, but I didn't have to go very far. Program appraisal, right there. Imagine that, right? So in calendar year 2025, the Prescott Regional Communications Center handled 195,311 calls for service. Now that doesn't mean necessarily that turned into a call, but that was how many times did the phone ring, either emergent or non-emergent, at PRCC downtown. 195,311. What that results in for the two of us is roughly 25 to 26,000 incidents that we run, with about 40,000 unit movements. Now what that means is there are times when we only send a single fire engine, but there's a lot of times, like for structure fires, accidents, we might send multiple units. And so those 25 to 26,000 calls result in about 40,000 unit movements of folks getting dispatched. And then the contract question is, we just expanded into the Yavapai Fire Consortium, and now there's 16 agencies, of which 12 are fire departments and 4 are law enforcement.
How many calls a day that is? That would be some hard math, but it's very busy. Yeah, there you go. That's the best I can do. So, okay, let's talk a little bit about engaging citizens and some of the things that the departments do. The first question on my list asks, does your department have a ride-along program? And I'm going to attach to that and say a Citizens Academy, that type of thing. So,
we'll go ahead and start. For the ride-along, we do have a ride-along policy, and we have a website, but obviously technology being what it is, you can also call our front office to help navigate that ride-along policy. But we've definitely tried to make it seamless as possible to have that information on our website, because it gives a lot more information to that ride-along and some of the parameters to it and everything. The Citizens Academy, which is something for our side, and I'll let Chief Durre speak on his side. We have been a part of a lot of Citizens Academy in the past. We used to have called a Fire Ops 101 that was hosted at the department. This year, we're actually hosting our first Citizens Academy that is open to the public. It's actually already filled up, and we're hoping to do more. But this is going to be the first one for us through our Community Relations Division. They've done a great job putting it together. And so, yeah, we're starting that up. Obviously, we know the value is there, and it filled up very quickly. And so hopefully this will be a platform to then propel that in the future. We have a lot more opportunities just to engage the public, and for them also to engage with us as well.
Yeah, so ride-along program very similar to CAFMA. We do as well. It's actually one of our most active tools for recruitment of firefighters. But anybody is eligible to ride along as long as they meet the age requirements in general. The other component is we also do quite a bit of ride-alongs for both fire science students as well as EMT and paramedic students. So paramedics have to do quite a lot of ride hours, and so they can schedule with us and CAFMA to get those ride hours and get precepted. So that happens quite a bit. Citizens Academy, yes, we have a great Citizens Academy through the city of Prescott. It's been active for a lot of years. John, do you know how many years we've been doing that? 10?
For the city,
yeah.
Generally, it's 7 or 8 years.
7 or 8 years, yeah. And it's a really cool opportunity because you get to visit all the departments in the city, from Public Works to the library. The fire department is best, and I don't say that facetiously because we actually have surveys that we give everybody, and we score the highest. But if you're interested in that, there's one coming here starting in May, and I've not yet had a single person complete that program saying, "Oh, that was a waste of my time." Quite the opposite. They love that program, and the county has one. I bet PV has one if you live there. I don't know about Chino. Chino might not have quite the bandwidth with their staff, but it's definitely a wonderful opportunity to get engaged with the local government and learn more about the inner workings. So.
Okay, and what about CPR, first aid, and other types of courses that are available to citizens?
Yeah, that would probably kind of go along the same lines of availability on our website. We do offer CPR programs, and you can sign up online. Again, if you have trouble with that, you can come to or call the front office. But usually, looking at the schedule recently, they offer about a monthly CPR program. There's a cost. I think right now it's $50 to attend the program. But yeah, a lot of other resources we have on there. Burn permits. I think I saw that as one of the questions. You can access burn permits, and really the page. We've tried to update our website. I think it was pretty chaotic before. Now there's a page, and it very specifically says, "How do I?" ... And so underneath there, we tried to put a number of those items where we get information or questions about. So we try to put some of that information in there to help navigate the web page. Because again, there's a lot of information, a lot of good information, but how do you access it? How do you get through it? CPR program. Our folks that our EMS division teaches that, and they do a fantastic job.
We also have a CPR program, and it is one program that's currently actually undergoing some transition. We're trying to actually focus it more internal to the city of Prescott. The reason for that is our strategic plan has one of the boldest goals, which is to increase the percentage of patients that leave the front doors of the hospital neurologically intact after suffering a cardiac arrest in the community. And one of the things that we're really kind of reflecting on is, it's awesome to do CPR classes, but there's more community-focused organizations that can do CPR certifications. We have a specific opportunity to touch the 700 to 800 employees within the city of Prescott and make sure that everybody at a reasonable level has CPR awareness and/or certification, and that we put as many publicly accessible AEDs into City of Prescott facilities, whether they're public-facing or even, for instance, we have facilities in CAFMA's jurisdiction, like in Chino. That's where a lot of our water production comes from. Well, making sure we have an AED there in case one of our public works employees suffers a cardiac arrest is also just as important. And so we're shifting that right now. That doesn't mean that we can't get you connected with a good community organization or even do that ourselves. We still have a few classes. We're going to make that shift here in summer. So between now and summer, we still have some great opportunities. But there's also, like I said, the American Red Cross, Granite Mountain Training, Lifeline Ambulance. There's a lot of places you can get CPR training in this community. It's vitally important, and we definitely encourage you to do so.
Okay, a few more questions here for you. Let's talk a little bit about staffing levels for each of the responding units from your department, and are they paramedic units? And talk to us a little bit about how that works.
I'll start. You look at our staffing, most of the engines that we have, so for CAFMA we have 10 full-time engines. We have one 40-hour engine that runs Monday through Thursday as looking at trying to help cover training events and other high volume times. Every engine company at a minimum has 3 personnel, a captain, an engineer, and a firefighter, with at least one of them being a paramedic. We have looked at a couple of our stations and increasing that number to have 4 on those stations, partly just because of call volume, but also workload at that station. And we'll continue to try to bolster the staffing, along with looking at the future of when do we need to add another engine company to the overall system. And I know Chief Durre, they're doing a lot of look at their expansion and their stations and locations. And nice thing is doing that collectively, looking at the region as a whole, is much better than if we were siloing off and looking individually. And so that's been a great partnership as they look at expanding, as do we. But that is the minimum staffing is for us is 3. And again, there are 10 stations. They're spread across 365 square miles, and some of them, we have north end of Paulden, and also in the center of Prescott Valley, and on the edge of the city of Prescott as well.
Very similar is we talked about our closest unit dispatch agreement, right? Staffing levels and the requirements are identical for both departments. So you're always going to get at least 1 paramedic. Most days you can actually expect our engine companies to have 2, just depending on kind of how the staffing is. So when people bid to their stations at the beginning of the year, we require that 2 paramedics bid to each station, so that when somebody's gone for a vacation or an injury, we've got that backfill, right? The other component is, so for us, our daily minimum is 5 engines, 24 hours a day, and we're just expanding into our 6th engine. We have 2 of those 40-hour engines that overlap, so 7-day-a-week coverage, basically 8 to 5 a.m., because that's actually when the call volume is highest in the city of Prescott. And that is going to turn into the new Engine 76 and Station 76 with 24-hour coverage, which is currently being designed. We're actually about to do the contract for construction at Prescott Lakes and Sundog Ranch for the new fire station. Because of that, the City Council over the last 2 fiscal years gave us an influx of 10 total personnel, 2 captains, 2 engineers, and 6 firefighters that are the beginning of that new engine company. And I am embarrassed, but also extraordinarily grateful to the community for that funding, because we can't just turn the light switch on and add a new engine company, especially in a fire department with just 5 engine companies. So we have to first put those personnel on the floor and give them time, right, to get their certifications and everything. And right now, for the first time in a long time in Prescott Fire history, we have the problem of not having enough beds for our firefighters. So we have engine companies sometimes that are running with 5 personnel. Because now, mind you, one's a very senior captain and a somewhat senior engineer, and then the 3 are like really young firefighters, like very, very young. But that's actually a really good problem to have. We actually had to buy cots to put in some of our stations. The minimum staffing for us, very similar to CAFMA, is technically 3 with 2 exceptions. Station 72, which is on 6th Street, is minimum staff of 4. We got a brand new platform aerial that went into service in October, and we wanted to make sure that the appropriate number of personnel were there for that cross-staff piece of equipment. But exactly like Chief Feddema said, the workload, that's a very, very busy company, especially on EMS. So that's usually a place where we have 2 paramedics and they actually trade off on calls. And then the other place is the airport. That engine company has 3, but we also staff 24 hours a day an additional engineer that's just there to run the foam rig at the airport for the ARF component, the aircraft rescue and firefighting. And so that is basically our minimum staffing in addition to a battalion chief. And then between the two departments, they have 2 battalion chiefs on duty, we have 1, and so there's 3 battalion chiefs that manage the system on a daily basis.
Okay, we'll wrap up with a future question. Does your department have a 5 to 10 year strategic plan? And talk a little bit about that, if you will. And Chief, you alluded to some of the future plans for Prescott. Maybe share anything you have for Prescott Valley as well.
As far as a 5 to 10 year plan, we have a hard enough time seeing tomorrow sometime. So Chief Durre can speak on his plan, but the plans that have been put in place the last several years have been like a 3-year plan, from staffing to just looking at the forecasting of the budgets and everything. Just because I would say used to, 10 years ago, we made a 5-year plan. By the end of that 5 years, it was nowhere near where we wanted to be. And so we've looked at bringing that number back just because we were talking with the Captain's Academy this morning. Both Chief Durre and I were sitting there. The speed of change in technology and other things in the fire service, and I think across the board, it's just trying to make sure that we keep up on it. So currently we do have a 3-year strategic plan. We're actually coming close to the end. I know you guys are actually working on yours this week, but we're looking at, okay, what does the next 3 years look like beyond 2027? So we're kind of in the planning process for that next, from staffing, budgets, looking at stations facilities for us, looking at funding challenges. As a fire district under property tax, we are very limited on the funding. So we are looking at what it would take in the future to build a station. What does that take as far as going out for a bond or something else to help fund, those improvements. But right now, as far as growth, we're trying to look at kind of the way the city of Prescott is looking at adding an engine here in the near future. And I would say for the first time for us in a long time, we're actually have unfilled positions that are budgeted for that we cannot fill. And it's not for lack of trying, but it's just a matter of used to, I remember the city of, even the city of Prescott, but Phoenix Fire back in the day, everybody wanted to be on Phoenix Fire. And there'd be 5,000 people testing for Phoenix Fire, and even they are getting far fewer. And for us, I think when I tested for reserve, a part-time position, there was 300 people. The last time I think we did a test, I think we had about 70 people apply for a full-time position. So it's a challenge for us. And I think there's a lot of different reasons people might say that challenge exists. Regardless, we're dealing with that challenge. So some of the plans that we have put in place, even the staffing, the engines, we've had to push those out a little bit because of that particular challenge of just getting people in the seats, getting them trained, as Chief Durre said. Getting them trained takes a while. Getting an experience to then put on that new engine definitely takes a little while.
So I'm going to try not to get too crazy here because strategic planning is one of my areas I can nerd out on pretty quick. The money that is currently being spent on new fire stations, new firefighters for the city of Prescott didn't just fall out of the sky. So many of you already know, not just because of fire departments, but the time for a fire chief to walk into a council chamber and say, if you don't give me this money, babies will die, is a long move. I have to be able to go in front of a council that is experienced, that is rightfully critical, and be able to objectively demonstrate a need, a gap, and also then to show progress. And about 3 years ago, we shifted in the Prescott Fire Department to an outcomes-based strategic plan. And where traditional strategic plans have that 3 to 5 year window, and master plans might have a 5 to 10 year window, we decided we were going to have a plan that has goals in that 3 to 5 year range that's updated annually. So, and there's a little bit of strategery, if you want to say, to that strategic planning approach. And that is that we do all of our program appraisal and effectiveness measurement in calendar years because we're on a fiscal year budget. So to kind of break that down, on December 31st, the clock starts ticking for all of our program managers to report on their measures, and that would be a whole nother afternoon of exactly how that interlocking Mayan calendar works. But suffice it to say, what we do once a year is we're able to tell our elected officials what the impact is of the dollars that they give us. What can we do? What's the gap that we're not able to fill? And we do that between basically right now. So between January, February, and March, we collect all that data, synthesize it into our annual report, into an updated strategic plan, updating our standards of cover, and then end of March, beginning of April, we're in front of our council giving our annual report update with all that data. The reason why that timing is important is because right on the heels of that, 2 council meetings later, the entire city starts presenting the council with their budget proposals. Mama didn't raise no fool. So,
I could probably do that. And there's a logic to that, right? Because if I've just told the same elected officials that are gonna approve my budget, you're good.
what I was able to do.
Not able to do with, wow.
Hello.
Squirrel things.
There you go. What I was able to do and not able to do with the money that they gave me last year, me asking for money right around that same time is a lot more logical, right? And it's not a game. It's truly adapting this fire department into the planning cycle of the city, understanding what the expectations are from the elected officials and from my boss, the city manager, and making sure that we meet those expectations. That is in general the overall approach to our strategic plan. And the other thing to keep in mind, real quick about the future, Proposition 478 is a 10-year capital window. And that capital window is doing a couple of things. First of all, the capital is 2 brand new fire stations that currently do not exist. Station 76, the one that I talked about at Sundog and Prescott Lakes, and Station 77, which location has not been decided yet. And the reason for that is just like Chief Feddema said, the community is growing at a rate. We know, for instance, AED, we know about Deep Well Ranch. We don't know in which timing and sequencing that's gonna happen, right? And so we don't wanna put a 50-year capital boat anchor somewhere and then all of a sudden the community explodes over here and we're in the wrong location. So we're holding off on that second new station for a couple of years. The other thing that we're doing is we're relocating the structure engine of the airport fire station that's currently on Wineglass Drive, and we're moving it closer to actually right where the Constellation Trailhead is. And the reason for that is we're taking an existing resource without hiring new firefighters and just putting them in a more effective location. So for instance, Granite Dells, Warren Farms, even Pinion Oaks is gonna get better service just by relocating an existing resource. Station 72 on 6th Street is basically gonna get razed down to the ground and rebuilt entirely. And then all the other fire stations are gonna get health and safety renovations that are desperately due, because most of our fire stations, the average age of our fire stations right now is 46 years old. That's the average. And usually in capital planning, you're saying that's a 50-year fire station. So I've got a ticking capital bomb that I gotta get ahead of, right? And then the other component of that is we've also, in 478, have an ongoing 0.75 sales tax that's gonna fund the firefighters for those 2 new fire stations. It helped us get a full-time fire marshal for the first time since the '08 recession. It is helping us, hopefully, we're gonna ask for an emergency manager in this upcoming budget process because the city of Prescott doesn't have a full-time emergency manager. And then there's also some other administrative positions that were vitally important to support all those new firefighters, including, for instance, at the city. If I put 30 new firefighters into my fire stations, IT, human resources, those departments, just to name 2 that firefighters constantly depend on because we get in trouble when we break our computers, they need folks as well. So I can't just add firefighters and expect the same level of service if we're not upstaffing those other components.
Great. I think this finally woke up, so it's a lot louder now. So thank you, both gentlemen. Any final thoughts, comments? This was not on the question sheet, but anything else that you wish you had said to everybody you want to just close out with, maybe?
No, I would just like to say, obviously, thank you for the opportunity to be here. Thank you to present, and we appreciate everyone coming to the event. The only thing I would like to close out with is something we've already talked about, but we are blessed with the partnership with Chief Durre coming in to the organization, leading the city of Prescott, and making sure that we as organizations continue to work well together. And that it's not always easy. There's sometimes disagreements between the agencies, but we are committed to the communities. We're committed to the best service we can provide. And I would say Chief Durre has come in and he has done a fantastic job with the city of Prescott and maintaining that partnership between the agencies because it's necessary. The community not just deserves it, but requires it at this point. And again, thank you.
Yeah, I'd echo echo the same thing with my partner here. As you can imagine, this is a very close working relationship. Sometimes the lines blur as to where one agency stops and the other one starts, and that's the way it should be. We updated our IGA 2 years ago, I can't remember, to the point where we can even do some joint purchasing to save taxpayers money. So cooperative purchasing through their warehouse. Our firefighters, when they go into a structure fire, they have to launder their protective ensemble right away, right? We were doing that with one of our firefighters in overtime, and they have an entire warehouse division that has a certified program to not only clean but also inspect that. And we are now contracting with CAFMA to do that, which not only saves our pocketbook for our city of Prescott taxpayers, but it's also smarter. It's the right thing to do, right? And so that's one of the things. The thing I always want to close with when I'm here is speaking of IGAs and partnerships. We have an agreement with the Learning and Tribute Center. Technically by law, which, that's just a guide, you're looking at City of Prescott property. You think that I could run a fire department and manage all this? The gratitude that I have for the Learning and Tribute Center to be the official city manager, city council approved guardian of all of these memorabilia that is so, so important, is something that we could not operate without. For us as a fire service agency, like I mentioned, we are moving pretty quickly right now. It's just a phase of growth for the City of Prescott Fire Department. That does not mean that we have forgotten or we're overlooking not just the Granite Mountain tragedy, but also all the other amazing history of the oldest fire department in the state of Arizona. We were the first PFD. Phoenix Fire can say they're PFD, we're the first PFD. And that is impossible to do. We talked about partnerships earlier. We can't do this without the Learning and Tribute Center. And the Learning and Tribute Center is also shifting and adapting into what we're sitting here doing right now, which is education. One of the main legacies that the Granite Mountain Hotshots have left is prevention, mitigation, and education. And the Learning and Tribute Center is responding not just in programs, but strategically to keep that mission alive. And so for me, there's a lot of gratitude to do that, because we could not do that without everybody that you see here in this room that puts their passion and their work into that. And to me, that matters a lot. So thank you for that.
Okay, well, I think we're just about at our time's end. I want to thank everybody for coming. I want to thank these two individuals. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for taking care of us and looking forward to the future to make sure that we are all as protected as possible. We appreciate you both very much. And thank you all for being here today.
These guys, when they came in, didn't realize today that they're gonna get mugged. We appreciate them and we want to have a souvenir.
That's awesome. That's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Cut that from the tape. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Oh, I do have one more thing. My goodness. Holy cow. I need to do a shameless plug. So, speaking of strategic planning, tomorrow we have the last opportunity to contribute to the update of the Prescott Fire Department strategic plan in person. You don't even have to mess with a QR code or a link on the web. You can come to City Hall between 1 o'clock and 2:30 in our executive conference room upstairs. And we have a facilitated feedback session where you can give us feedback. And even if you're not a resident of the City of Prescott, you can come. If you do business in the City of Prescott, you're here at the mall, we want to hear from you. I'll leave a couple of these flyers and pass them here. Just pass them around. And we'd love to see you there tomorrow at 1 o'clock. So,
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
I would have gotten in trouble.